Okay, Oneeb, you have lost a lot of weight since you started this journey. What inspired you to make this courageous change, and how has it affected you both physically and mentally?
Good question. So I think I've been pretty much overweight my entire life, at least as long as like since middle school, I would imagine. Um, I've attempted to lose weight probably a few times, 3 or 4 times, moderately successfully, 20 to 60, maybe at most 70 pounds. But I don't know, a few years ago, after quarantine and after all that, just probably gained a lot of weight. Wasn't really feeling good. Mostly kind of lacking purpose or meaning. Probably depressed. Very hard to really motivate myself to do anything. And I don't know when I came to this realization exactly or what exactly sparked that um fire, but I knew that I needed to change the way I was, and no one was going to do it for me. So I just decided inside that I wanted to not die unfulfilled, have a fulfilling life. And the first step to doing that was to lose the weight. And that's how I started. How that has impacted me physically and mentally, I would say at a very tremendous level, like more than I could even imagine at that time. If like someone had told me, I would probably not believe them. So physically, just in terms of energy level, um, I mean, before, getting through the day was even just like a normal day, it was not a very difficult or taxing day. It would be hard. But, if I had to do something physically taxing, it would be like exhausting and, easy to get out of breath. Even climbing stairs and stuff would be embarrassing, stuff like that. But now it's like the energy is boundless. Uh, I sleep easier. I wake up easier. I'm not like afraid to do things, or I don't think about things too much when I do something physically. Like I'll jump on my feet and go get something done. Um, so that energy level has been just massive for me because then it allows you to, as you're losing weight, you get more energy, and then you use that more energy to lose more weight. So it's like a kind of a runaway process. So it's kind of addicting in a way. Mentally, I think just by holding yourself accountable and focusing on improvement, I think it gives a structure to your mind, which gives you like a purpose and small goals that will affect you positively. So I was pretty, I had I think a pretty dark place. So having that focus really helped me kind of clear my mind. And it wasn't like an instant kind of processes, took place over months. But like now it's like my mind feels clearer, sharper. Like ideas come quicker, I just feel smarter basically. And then even like on my worst days, I feel more positive than my best days before would be. So both physically and mentally, it's just been like a wild improvement.
That's amazing to hear, man. You have been on an amazing journey. It's very inspiring to see it. You should be proud of yourself.
Thank you.
In the community, you have talked about the impact of Stoicism,
Hmm.
especially from Marcus Aurelius' teachings on your life. How has this philosophy kept you motivated and courageous in your fitness journey?
I think it teaches you kind of a control on your emotional kind of mindset. Um, if you, I mean, we as people are quick to anger, are quick to react emotionally to things. So, learning to regulate and understand those emotions is important. I'm not saying to like completely deaden emotions or anything like that, but for example, if like someone cuts me off, I can get mad about it. Um, but what benefit does that give me, that anger? I can't really do anything about it. So, and it's hard to regulate your anger, right? When you're in the moment, you get angry, but it's something you have to train yourself into. So, I give them excuses, I give them benefit of the doubt. Maybe they need to get to the hospital, maybe, they have to get, catch a flight, or maybe they're just old or something like that. So it teaches you to kind of regulate those emotions, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. You have to kind of keep practicing and practicing. So learning to control your emotions, not really kind of separating what you can control versus what you can control. Events happen in our lives we have no control over, but we can control how we react to them. So if you always react negatively, then that's going to lead to a negative mindset. And it's not easy to change your mindset. So it's something that you have to kind of practice at and kind of get better at. And it also kind of taught me to that discipline that comes with self-change. So Stoicism um, stresses the importance of your own actions on yourself versus the external. So, getting in your daily runs or getting in your workouts, making sure you eat a certain amount of calories, it teaches that discipline. So I kind of tend to use that in my life to kind of focus myself, structure my life so I can kind of control what I eat, what I work out, and like how I how I lose weight, how I exercise. So I think that's how it affects my mindset.
I'm sure a lot of people struggle with building that self-discipline.
Yeah,
It's not that easy.
no.
Have you found a way to, you know, build that discipline?
The best way I think for me at least was to set small goals for myself. So breaking down very complex, not very complex, but complex goals into simpler ones. So say I want to go out and run. If I wake up in the morning, I don't know where my shoes are, I don't know where my keys are, I don't have my bag, I don't have my water bottle. It's going to cause me stress, and then I'm going to make up excuses. Oh, well, I don't know where my shoes are. I'm not going to go out and run. So I tend to structure my life so I have my kit ready, I have my water ready, I have everything ready, and then I don't say I'm going to go out for a 5 mile run. I say, okay, I'm just going to get up, brush my teeth, get my pre-workout, put my shoes on, and those small goals kind of give you that dopamine hit. And then once you accomplish those goals, it kind of pushes you to the next one. So then you can say, okay, now I'm just going to go out and sit in my car and drive to the park. And then once you're at the park, you're like, okay, now I'm going to get out and start walking. Okay, I don't feel like walking, I want to run a little bit. Then I ran a mile. Maybe I want to run a half mile more. So just keep pushing yourself with these small steps, and then you make that big run into something that's very simple. And it's also something you have to train yourself into. But you give yourself these small victories, it makes yourself feel good. And it makes a very difficult thing in your mind simple, I think.
Talking about running, you have recently started running. What
Yes.
has running taught you about yourself and how has it impacted your overall fitness?
I think the number one thing running has taught me is how much I limit myself mentally in terms of exerting effort. So I really like David Goggins, and he has something called the 60-40 rule. It's like when you think you're giving it all, you're actually giving 60%, you have 40% left in the tank. And
Right.
it's something you kind of like listen to and you're like, yeah, sure. But I'm sure everyone has like pushed themselves beyond their limits, right? And you've been at the edge thinking you're done and you've managed to like kind of motivate yourself for that little extra push. So there was times where I would run a certain amount, and then I would think, okay, I can't run anymore. I have to slow down and start walking. And then, sometimes I would say, okay, I'll just listen to the next song, and after that I'll stop. And then in those small ways, just like I said, those small steps, I kind of motivate myself to push past my limits. And then you're like, wow, I thought I was going to stop way back then, but I managed to do a whole another mile. Isn't that crazy? So it's taught me to be mindful of where I think my limits are. And I don't mean it in a way where you have to like push yourself every single time and, hurt yourself, but you have to kind of push yourself past your mental constraints, and then you can find out what your real limits are. So that's kind of what running has taught me. And
Mm.
overall, fitness wise, in terms of stamina and my heart rate, my resting heart rate has gone down quite considerably. I think from like the 70s to like the mid 50s now. Um, but yeah, just being able to like, run up like 5 flights of stairs and like not really being out of breath versus before, one flight of stairs, I would have to like consider my options, I would have to like hesitate. And that feeling of hesitation of like, oh, there's a staircase, it's going to be embarrassing if I climb it and then I'm huffing and puffing, but now I can just, climb the stairs while I'm talking, whatever. So that's been a, massive improvement.
I mean, I've been following your running journey. It's been an amazing. It's been amazing to see your progress. You have come a long way from when you started.
Thank you.
What made you start running?
Well, when I first started the weight loss, I primarily focused on diet because, the adage, you can't outrun a bad diet. So I focused on mainly making sure I was hitting my um, caloric caloric limit for the day, for the week, etc. And I was kind of inconsistent with not even running, but going out for a walk or lifting. And at the end of last year, I made a decision where I was going to be actively more involved in consistently, walking. So I didn't even have running in my mind at the time. And even if I wanted to, I don't think it would be a smart idea to run at my weight. So the first month of this year, I basically just walked almost every day. And I've never had joint problems, knee problems, ankles, stuff like that. So thankfully, that wasn't really a big issue in terms of walking. And I might have even overdid the walking for the first month because I kind of got burned out by February, but I still kept it up, but just not as much. And then eventually I reached a point where like my body wanted to move faster, like it was bored of walking. So like I kind of just waited for my own like body to kind of give me that sign. And then I would start to run. And it wasn't like I was a marathon runner immediately. I would run and then get tired after like 30 seconds and I have to walk again. But I started doing those kind of interval training type things where I would, run for 30 seconds, walk for a minute, and then I would keep increasing the run time, and eventually it would get longer and longer and longer, and you feel better and better and better, and you know as you do with anything that you're working on, you get better at the efficiency of running. You learn good form, you get less tired, um, like your legs don't get sore anymore, stuff like that. So I think taking that slow approach with walking kind of got my legs and tendons and all those um, things that are slower to develop than muscles kind of ready and warmed up for running, so I didn't injure myself.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who wants to start running because running is trending right now. I see a lot of people running these days.
Yeah,
What is one piece of advice you would give to someone who is starting out with running?
I would say just start slow. Even if even if you're not running per se, depending on like what your situation is with your physical ability. Obviously thinking from like an overweight perspective. But if you just want to start running and you don't have that kind of baggage, you can just start running. But like I would advise, if you're maybe not used to long distances of walking and running, just start walking, and then like you'll kind of like grease the grooves in a way, and then after a week of walking, maybe you can start running. But I would say go slow because like when you're working out and then you're developing your muscles, it's a very relatively fast process, but like your joints and like your tendons and like all that stuff, it's a lot slower to develop. So if you go too hard too fast, you can get like a knee injury, or you get shin splints, you just injure your leg. So if you get injured, then you can't run. So it's better to start off slow, kind of build up the stamina, build up the body, maybe a month, and then you can kind of start pushing your limits and going faster and going longer and stuff like that. And
Mm.
it's also motivationally easier. Like if you set yourself up for, I'm going to run 5 miles today, and then you don't do it, then you're going to feel bad. But if you set yourself, okay, I'm just going to go for, a 20-minute walk or a 10-minute walk, like I said, make it easier for yourself.
So in the community, you have mentioned struggling with perfectionism. How did you shift your mindset and how has that helped you move forward with courage?
Like I said before, I have attempted to lose weight a few times, and I've been pretty strict with myself and actually been, like I said, fairly successful, 50, 60 pounds. So I would set myself goals of, eating X amount of calories, only eating certain types of food, getting a certain amount of exercise, and I wouldn't give myself any kind of, let's say, benefit of the doubt or kindness. So if I failed, I would get like really negative. So if I overate, I would be mad, and or if I didn't run enough, I would get angry, like, why are you so lazy? Negative self-talk, that kind of stuff. So once you do that, it allows you to kind of make excuses and quit. So if you overate one day, I would say, okay, well, I messed up yesterday. What good it is? What good is it for me to even try to meet my calories this day? And you kind of get yourself into a negative spiral. And I've never really remembered a specific hard deadline when I quit those attempts. It would always be a few months later, and I would look back and I would kind of be unaware of why I actually stopped. And I think being so strict with myself in a certain way kind of um, led me to this kind of self-defeating process. So this time I allowed myself a lot of grace and I allowed myself to be kind to myself because you're going to be your harshest critic. So I think it's important to be kind to yourself because if you're not, you're just going to negatively spiral if you mess up. Because eventually everyone's going to mess up. Everyone's going to have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, where you're not meeting your calorie goals, you're not lifting, you're not working out at all, you're not running, you're not doing anything productive. So this time, if I had a bad day or like, oh, okay, I ate some bad food or I ate like not clean food or I ate too much, it's just one day for the rest of your life. It's not a big impact overall. So the next day, just you don't even have to make it up. Just do better the next day or the next week, and then keep going because it's a long journey and you're not going to see instant results. You're going to have to put in some effort and it's going to take some time. So if you're very anxious and you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself and you don't see those results, you're only going to be disappointed. So this time I used that kind of a more positive mindset where I allowed myself the option of failure. Okay, I didn't run 20 miles this week. I only ran 10. Maybe I put a, too high of a goal, or maybe I just was too busy or I was occupied with other things. So give yourself that kind of leniency, I think. And that really pushed me to succeed this time.
You have a positive mindset. I can see that. But I'm sure a lot of people struggle with being positive and they struggle when they don't see the result immediately. They are demotivated. What advice would you give to that person?
What I would say to them is I know exactly where you're coming from because while I talk a lot about positivity, it's not something that is always what I'm experiencing. So everyone has bad days and I still have bad days. So there are going to be days where you're not motivated to do anything. And if you kind of chase motivation as your drive to do anything, I think you're going to set yourself up for failure. Because some days I don't feel like running. I don't feel like running at all, but I still push myself to go out there. And like I said, I do that with those small steps where I kind of convince myself or trick myself, like, okay, put my shoes on, get my keys, etc. So, and it's not something, I can say, oh, just be positive and you can be positive. It's something you have to work on, something you have to like actively train your mind for, and you can kind of like catch yourself being negative to yourself, and kind of stop that. And there's an element of kind of faking it till you make it. So you kind of have to, even if you're not feeling the best, you kind of have to kind of convince yourself that, okay, today's going to be a good day. I'm going to go out and, do something, something very easy, but still, something that's part of my journey. Maybe I'll just walk for 5 minutes and that's enough for today because I'm feeling demotivated. And it's very hard to just wait on motivation or waiting until you feel good that day because then you're only going to go out and do something when you feel good, then it's not really going to work for you. You're going to have to kind of have some discipline in going out and even when you're feeling the worst, going out and getting it done. And you don't have to do like a crazy amount. You just have to do, the bare minimum and that'll give you kind of a positive boost and hopefully push you out of that kind of slump.
I totally agree. Motivation is not reliable.
Right.
Motivation comes and goes. One day you're super motivated, the other day you don't feel motivated. So having that discipline is really important. I totally agree. So courage is a big theme in our community. Can you share a moment when you had to be really brave to keep going, even when things were tough?
That's a tough question. I guess I would have to say my mother's death was a very traumatic time in my life. I was, halfway through college, um, doing my degree, and my mom has always been like pushing me for education, uh, always pushing me to get A's and all that kind of stuff. So to kind of have that main motivation for the stuff I was doing pass away was like a big blow on me, and it kind of sent me to a negative place and a negative spiral. And obviously, everyone deals with grief their own way. But I was kind of like struggling through my classes and just having a hard time because I was taking a bunch of classes and it was hard for me to stay focused on getting good grades and studying for tests. But I had to really push myself because I was asking myself, what would she want me to do? And I kind of used that as uh, kind of had to take courage in that fact to kind of push through the negativity and all the sadness that I was feeling and really get through get through all those classes, get through all those tests, etc., and then make sure I did well and make sure, in my mind, I made my mother proud.
Thank you for sharing that story. Must have been hard to go through that. I'm sure if your mom see you right now, she'll be truly proud of the progress that you have made and the journey that you're on. I'm sure she'll be super proud of that.
Thank you for saying that.
Oh, must have been really hard, man.
Yeah, it, it was pretty much all a blur at that time.
But now you're doing great. You're making her proud.
Thank you.
Let's keep doing that.
Yes, definitely.
You have shared some powerful quotes in the community, like from Marcus Aurelius. Can you tell us about a quote that has deeply influenced your thinking and how you apply it in your life?
One quote that comes to mind is something like, "If I know one thing, is I know nothing," by Socrates, and that's always kind of been my guiding principle, even before I knew that quote, where I was just always in search of truth and knowledge in whatever shape or form it was. I was always at the library reading about, anything I could, anything that I found interesting, space, sharks, dinosaurs, history, fantasy, um, any kind of thing that caught my eye, I would read it. Wouldn't matter what it was, where, what genre, what field. And I've always used that principle of lifelong learning and thinking of myself as knowing nothing, because the sum of human knowledge, or just the totality of it's, no one person can ever attain that, right? There's always something new to learn, something new to figure out each day. And until, the end of your life, you'll still have things to learn. So I always think of myself as like an empty cup, an empty vessel, kind of to be filled with knowledge. And I think having that kind of open mind really um, helps you to not get trapped in biases and um, beliefs that you don't really verify for yourself in a way. So I try to always analyze the things that I'm reading and understanding and making sure I really get the concept that whatever I am involved in uh, firmly in my brain. And if you get too arrogant, you think you know everything, then you kind of put a stop to that learning, that open mind, that curiosity. So I try to be humble in those ways and not arrogant with the things that I know. So keeping an open mind allows you to kind of change your perspective and see things from maybe other points of view that you didn't consider. So I think I used that quote as a guiding principle in my life.
That's an amazing quote, and I totally agree. And that makes your life more exciting as well, right? If you know everything, uh, you have nothing more to learn, so kind of boring. It's a boring
Exactly.
life. I truly believe in being a lifelong learner. Like even after school, most people stop learning. I think it's very important to keep learning. Whatever interest you have, keep learning. Read books, watch YouTube videos, watch podcasts. Keep learning, keep growing. It's an infinite game that you're playing, right? You can always keep on learning.
Exactly. Yeah.
There are infinite knowledge out there. So whatever interest you have, I would recommend you just keep learning, keep expanding your knowledge, be open-minded, like you said. You mentioned the quote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. How have your thoughts shaped your action and your mindset?
So like we were talking about how initially I was trying to lose weight. I mean, I have that negative overall mindset where I would be very unforgiving for the things that I get wrong. And clearly I failed those attempts. And I think having that negative mindset really played a big part in that. Everything that you think or the way that you think bleeds into the rest of your life. So if you're always negative, you're going to view everything as negative. Like I was saying, if someone's laughing at general, you're going to think, oh, they're laughing at me. Or if someone's pointing in your general direction, you're going to think, okay, they're pointing and laughing at me. Maybe they're pointing at something else. But since you're in that negative space, you're going to think everything is uncharitable towards you. And again, it's not one of those things that's like a light switch where you can say just be positive, but it's something that you have to kind of will yourself into. And it's not going to be something that's always, you're not always going to be positive, but maybe you can, try to, every time you are negative to yourself, try to catch yourself. Why am I being so negative to myself? What would I say to a friend who has said this to me versus myself? Just little tricks like that. So that quote's important to me because if you have or if you try to have a positive outlook, then it's going to bleed into the rest of the things that you do. You're going to be more positive in terms of your workouts, in terms of your eating habits, in terms of your relationships. And I think that's very important to kind of understand how much mental outlook has an effect on the rest of your worldview.
So you have joined the Courageous Ones community earlier this year, I think around April. How has being part of this group impacted your journey and what does it mean to you?
I think the community has a profoundly positive impact on my life. Um, Thankfully, I've been blessed with an amazing set of friends in general that have always been very supportive and very kind and always pushing me for my best. So um, I wasn't really lacking in that, but it's a different kind of ball game to have a community that's all kind of focused on a single aspect of self-improvement. So I think it gave me a lot more focus. So would I still be, progressing with my weight loss journey and my fitness journey without the community? I would hope so. I'd hope I'd have reached that point where I could stay self-motivated throughout um, that entire process. But what I can definitely say is if wasn't part of this community, I wouldn't have come as far as I have now because there's a diverse group of individuals, all with their own kind of interests, all with their different kind of goals, but all kind of striving with a similar end game, which is self improvement, basically, and pushing ourselves past our comfort zones in order to grow. So, in those regards, I think I've been pushed in a way that I wouldn't have been pushed before. I would have I would have lost weight, but not as much. I would have started running and all of that, but I wouldn't have done as much as I have now. So I think that support structure has provided a lot of focus for me.
You have been a great member of our community. You show up every call and you take those actions, you set goals. So you should be proud of yourself. Like we try to motivate and support you, but you have to take the action, and you did take the action. So be proud of yourself, man.
Thank you.
How do you think being part of a supportive community like ours helps individuals stay focused and motivated on their path to self-improvement?
I think it's important to have, even at the bare minimum, like one person that kind of is in your corner supporting you. Like you said, everything that you do is you're kind of responsible for. No one's going to go out and lose weight for you or make you fit or if you want to be super ripped or something like that, no one's going to do that for you. But what they can do is help push you and kind of keep you, let's say, on the right path. So everything that you do, you're gonna have to do for yourself, but some days are worse than others, and you'll probably fail multiple times, and sometimes that failure might be too much for you. And just by having someone to talk through setting goals for yourself, you can kind of work through that negativity and um, get that extra push that you need. You'll still have to do the work. You'll still have to push and pull and put in the effort, but having that support structure kind of prevents you from falling back. So they'll push you back up every time you kind of stumble.
Totally agree. That's the exact reason why I start this community with like-minded individuals who can support and motivate each other to grow. Like every member has their own goals and own path, but we support and inspire and motivate each other to reach those goals. And I think it's very important to have that kind of community, even if it's not in person, like having it online community really helps to get there, to reach your goals and dreams that you have. So
Totally agree.
that's the goal of our community, to inspire and motivate each other, to support each other on our own self-improvement journey. All right, for someone just beginning their self-improvement journey, what one piece of advice would you give to them to help them start on the right path?
I would say start small. I think a lot of the failures that people encounter are because they go too hard too fast. And if you start off small, you can set yourself goals that you'll hit every time, and that'll give you that dopamine hit and kind of make you proud of yourself. So to give an example, if you want to read more, just read one page, because you can't not read one page. You can just 30 seconds, 1 minute, you read that page, you're done for that day. And then, reading a page a day for a week, then you can up it to 2 pages. And then once you kind of build that habit, then you can start increasing rapidly. You can be like, okay, now I'm going to read 20 pages a day, etc. But everyone's going to have a different pace and everyone's going to have a different comfort level. So even with my stuff where I'm running and I'm walking, I started walking, and I wasn't walking like a crazy amount. I would just walk for 30 minutes, and whatever distance that was fine. And then I would set myself goals after that where I would walk 2 miles or I'd walk a 5K. Um, Once I got more comfortable with what my body was capable of. So I would say go slow and start small. And then once you're comfortable, you can start building up fairly quickly.
That's a great advice. I think Eric Thomas said this once: dream big, but start small.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I totally agree that it's important to start small, to build up the momentum. And when you see progress, you are more motivated to keep going. Small changes brings remarkable results, right? From the book Atomic Habits. So yeah, I totally agree. Starting small, building up momentum, progress is the biggest motivation you can have.
Exactly.
All right, last question to close off our conversation. Is there a quote or lesson that you think everyone should carry with them as they go on their personal growth journey?
Well, there's one that I always love is man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he's both the marble and the sculptor. And I think it was Alex Carroll that said that. So why I find that quote very important is um, three things. Change comes from within. You can't be passive in your self-improvement, and it's going to be hard and it's going to suck. So if you're chiseling yourself out of a block of marble, right, it's going to be painful. If you start running, your legs are going to hurt, your back's going to hurt. If you're lifting, all your muscles are going to be very sore. Or if you're controlling your diet, maybe you're going to be mad that you're not, eating the same things that you like to eat, or you're going to feel hungry. So it's going to be a struggle in some way, and you're not going to like it um all the time. And you have to be an active participant. You're the sculptor, and no one else is going to come out and break you out of that marble, your true self out of that block of marble. you have to do it yourself. And it's an active process. You can't just wait for it to happen to you. So you have to really focus on taking those small steps and using those to achieve your goals. And if you realize that it's going to be a struggle, it's going to take a while, then you're not going to be so focused on the small term outcomes. So you're not going to say, "Oh, I'm going to lose like 30 pounds this month." You're just going to focus on 1 pound at a time, and eventually the weight's going to come off. And I'm going to always talk about it in terms of weight because that's my journey. But it took a while to get to this weight, so it's going to take a while to get all that weight off of you. And I think that quote really exemplifies that kind of mindset.
That's a great quote. Oneeb, thank you so much for sharing your journey and insight with us today. It's been very inspiring to see how far you have come, and I'm sure that those who listen will find motivation in your story. I'm really proud of you for the hard work you have put in, and I hope you are proud of yourself as well.
Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for having me. And everyone's self-improvement journey is personal to them. So if anything that I shared helps anyone, I would be very happy.
For everyone listening, if you are interested in joining our community with like-minded individuals dedicated to personal growth, sharing insights, and supporting each other, check out the Courageous Ones community. The link is in the description below. We'll see you next time. Stay courageous. Peace.